Hi everyone, welcome to our next Family Orientation Live session. This session is going to be in partnership with Housing and Residence Life to answer all of your questions about having your student live on campus. So we'll start with some introductions. Again, my name is Catherine Knaus. I'm the Assistant Director for Family Programs. So as you have questions, please feel free to use my email and we will put contact information everywhere we can think of in the chat. You'll receive some follow-up as you need to get those questions answered. So I'm gonna let my students introduce themselves. So Kristen, Jacob, Ken.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Handley. I work for the Office of New Student and Family Programs as a Student Director of Family Engagement. I am a senior Human Services major.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacob Azaria. I also work for New Student Programming as a returning orientation leader, but I also work for Housing and Residence Life as an RA as well. I am also double major in sociology and business.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be one of your orientation leaders today. My name is Ken. I go by he, him pronouns, and I also work for Housing and Residence Life along with New Student and Family Programs. And I will be a senior with a healthcare management major this fall.
Thank you. So as you have questions about student life, our students are more than happy to answer those questions. But we're lucky to have some of the leadership of Housing and Residence Life here with us on this call. They're going to give you some information and then we'll go into questions. So I will turn it over to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Hoover. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Housing and Residence Life, and I'm going to go ahead and share my so hopefully this works. All right. So as I said, my name is Kelly Hoover. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Housing and Residence Life. And along with me, I have some colleagues. So I'm gonna allow them to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you all can see me. The camera is new for me. My name is Melinda Jensen, and I am the Director of Residence Life here at Towson.
And hi, everyone. My name is Katie Cordwell. I'm the Assistant Director of Business and Administrative Services. So I manage all of the housing operations and the assignments process for Housing and Residence Life.
Thanks. So we just wanted to be able to take some time to give you a general overview of what the year in Housing and Residence Life is going to look like. Hopefully be able to answer some of your questions, be able to talk a little bit about what might be different for us going into this year, knowing that we're in the COVID-19 landscape, and also talk to you a little bit about what we hope your student experience would be for your son or daughter, child that's coming to the university in just a few weeks. So I'm going to turn it over to Melinda to talk a little bit about community engagement and what that looks like for our students on campus.
Sure, thanks, Kelly. So in my job, I have the distinct pleasure of working with all of the staff, professional staff and student staff that are dedicating their either careers or jobs and time to facilitating and creating opportunities for community engagement for you all. And so some of you may be asking, like, what does that mean? What does that even look like? What is this supposed to be? I don't know what to expect. And so I'm going to paint some pictures for you. So there are lots of different ways for our students to be engaged and involved in their undergraduate collegiate experience. And so one of those ways is through learning communities. So these are groups of individuals that are linked through some sort of a theme, topical area, whether it's an academic focus or other special identity theme. And there are individuals that work with these learning communities at the professional staff level. So there are faculty, because some of the learning communities have a linked class. So students would be participating in an educational experience with peers at the same time in different environments, as we will be having some hybrid experiences with some students being physically in the classrooms and some from home. But regardless of where students are living, they're all members of learning communities. So there are a number of them from STEM, political engagement, education, to alcohol-free and gender inclusive. So we have lots of different options for our students. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, that's likely a sign that you didn't indicate an interest and are not a member of that learning community, which is totally fine. There's other ways for you to be getting involved. Part of the bonus of being part of these learning communities, though, is there are liaisons and role models. So what these individuals are returning students who have been members of the community before. They are positioned to live in community with you on the floors in the building. Some of them might be on a different floor, but they're living in the space where the community is present, with the goal of helping to engage you with the content, engage you with one another, and really make the experience an enriching and fulfilling endeavor for you. Like I said, there's faculty and there's departmental support. There are additional funds available for various engagement opportunities that are linked to the themes of those learning communities. And so there's some really great opportunities to get experiences that might otherwise not be available to you if you weren't a member of the learning community. But like I said, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. There are other spaces and ways for students to get involved. And so another opportunity is through University Residence Government, URG, and Building Council. So this would be something similar to your student government experience in high school, anything that you may have seen or participated in yourself. But this is really where our students have an opportunity to be informed and help promote awareness and engagement for like the building level, which would be building council. There's an executive board that any incoming student could participate in being on the leadership team of. The way in which we're going to go about facilitating that, more information to come when you move on to campus. Your residence life coordinator, RLC, is a full-time professional staff member that lives in the building that advises that experience. And so more information will come and be made available to you when you are back on campus. But this really is a space for our students to be advocates for what the building needs, what the students within the building needs. And then if there was an opportunity to be on university residence government, that's something where I have strong connection with that executive team that's in place. Elections are done in the spring for that. Typically first-year students aren't on that executive board. However, we have had exceptions to that rule. So wanting to make sure that everyone knows about these leadership opportunities. You don't have to have leadership experience to do that. But if you're interested in connecting and engaging with your peers in social and formal to informal ways, this would be a great way to do that. University Residence Government, URG, does connect to SGA, which is Student Government Association. So the University Residence Government really focuses its efforts and attention on the residential student experience, where SGA focuses on the Towson student experience overall. So that's the distinction between those two entities. So last but not least, we have RAs, resident assistants. And so these are individuals that have lived on campus. They have, they're at least a sophomore or above, and they have voluntarily said, I want to be the person that's going to connect with the community on my floor and help engage them in their undergraduate experience. So these are folks that are going to be giving you information, helping you find your way. They will be having floor meetings with you to share all sorts of important information with you. Strongly encourage that you participate in those. Many of the engagement opportunities that will be facilitated by your resident assistant will be virtual in the fall. That's not typically the way Residence Life operates. However, there's plenty of workaround solutions and opportunities for them to be connecting with you. So be on the lookout for emails or like text messages or phone calls, like whatever it is, however it is that works for you, your RA is going to be working to be connected with you. The RAs serve in an on-call capacity. So in addition to being on the floor, working with you in that kind of one-on-one situation, they also provide a level of support in after-hours response, weekend support. There is they have support structures that exist beyond them as well. And so our resident assistants, they're in every single building, no matter where they're positioned, and their whole entire goal is to help support you and help promote and build a positive, engaging community with you as an active participant of that. So the screen that was being shared is gone. So I think those were all of my notes. So I'm going to pass it to Katie.
Yeah, we're going to apologize for the screen being gone. Kelly lost connection, and she was the person that was sharing our presentation. So we have lost our presentation and information. But some of what I was going to talk to you about was information about assignments and move-in. So what you can expect moving forward, and what's going to be happening quickly over the next couple of weeks. So on July 31st by 5 p.m., your students will receive an email to their Towson University email address, letting them know the building that they'll be living in and their roommates or suite mates. This year we have decreased density on campus. So we have no more than 2 students sharing a bathroom. So in some of our buildings, that's 2 students living in the same room because there's a bathroom inside of that space. That's Barton and Douglas. And in some of our buildings, that's students living in single bedrooms and sharing a bathroom either in a suite or in a quad area, such as the Glen Towers, Residence Tower, and Newell. So it just depends upon which building our incoming first years are placed in. I do know that something that was a big concern, just based upon emails that our office had received, was parents believing that we were out of spaces and were concerned that their incoming first year students were not going to have spaces. We did a room selection process for our continuing students last week. And we held off spaces to make sure that we had space for our incoming freshmen, but it left not as many spaces in our residence halls for our continuing students. They still have space on campus. It's just in the apartments, which might not have been where they were initially planning to live. But there are still enough spaces inside of our residence halls for incoming first year students, and they will be getting information on their assignment on Friday. On Friday, they will also get information about how to sign up for move-in. So move-in is going to be a different experience this year, so that we are sure to limit the amount of students that are moving in at one time and ensure that we're able to maintain social distancing. So move-in will be spread out from August 13th through August 23rd. Students who move in earlier during that process are certainly welcome to bring their belongings, drop them off, get their room set up, and then leave and not come back until closer to when things start on campus, such as our Welcome to TU events starting on August 20th. There will be some smaller events before then, but it will not be the same type of engagement that'll start occurring on August 20th. So students will be able to sign up for a time to move in, and we're limiting no more than 8 students per building per time slot. So it will be an online system where students will go in, select a time, it'll lock it in place for them, and they'll have about a week to make sure that they're able to sign up for it before our staff will start following up, asking, are you coming? You haven't selected a time yet, and making sure that we are all ready to go for move-in. What will actually happen during our move-in process is that it'll be a drive-in process to pick up keys, information packets, swag, and one card information up by the CQ Arena, right across from the football stadium, actually, in Lot 5. And parents and students will stay in their car. A staff member will come and meet everyone at their car, ask for information so we can provide you with everything that you need. And then you'll be sent on your way to your building to unload and unpack, and given a 2-hour time frame after you've picked up your key to be able to complete that process. And then, like I had already mentioned, Welcome to TU events would begin on August 20th. Now I'm going to pass it over to Kelly.
Great, I'm back. Sorry about that. I lost connection there. So obviously we know that going into this academic year, things are going to look a bit different than they have traditionally in the past. So I just wanted to review with everyone so that people are all aware of the safety measures that we're putting in place in housing and residence life in regards to the residential experience in light of COVID-19. So as many people already know, we have reduced density in our residence halls for this coming fall. So in order to do that, we really looked at the science and where exposure risks were likely to happen and made some decisions about our what types of rooms we would offer to students and what types of rooms did we feel like were just not going to be conducive to this landscape. So in looking at our decision making, what we landed on is that we're limiting room types to those that have no more than 2 persons sharing a bathroom. So what that meant in some of our residence halls is that we didn't need to change the occupancy. So for example, in West Village, a number of those rooms are already configured so that there are double rooms with a private bathroom, which allows only those 2 persons to share a bathroom. However, in some of our other residence halls, in the Glen complex, for example, we typically have 2 double rooms sharing an adjoining restroom. So what we've done with the Glen this year is we've reduced that density to only 1 person on either side of that shared bathroom in the center, limiting that exposure to only 2 people in that bathroom. We have had to take some of our more traditional residence halls offline because we have community bathrooms in those buildings. So Prettyman and Scarborough and Richmond, we're not utilizing this fall because they just aren't going to allow us to have students return in a way that we felt was safe. In Newell and in Residence Tower, both of those buildings have a significant reduction in the number of occupants that will be living in them this fall based off of this 2 persons sharing a bathroom requirement that we've imposed on ourselves. We've also worked closely with our staff and facility services to ensure that we're putting limitations on the numbers of people that are able to use any particular common area or elevator. And so when students return to campus in the fall or come to campus in the fall, they will see signage all over campus, and a number of those signage will indicate how many persons are safe to be in any given space. So be on the lookout for that. As is the case in our world right now, TU is going to be a mask on campus. And so face coverings will be required across campus. That includes the residence halls, with the exception of the times when you're in the privacy of your own room. So in the hallways, in the elevators, in any common spaces in the residence halls, it will be expected that you're wearing your mask. And we encourage folks to wear their masks anytime that they're on campus out in public facing space. So walking across campus, even though you're outside, you never know when somebody's gonna come around the corner. So it's always just a good idea to have a face covering on. One thing that you'll notice right away as students are moving in is that in all the buildings, but particularly in the residence halls, will be sanitation stations. Those will be set up in the lobby area of the residence halls where there will be a large hand sanitizer pump station and wipes. So the hand sanitizer pump stations are meant to help students refill smaller hand sanitizer bottles that they might carry with them in their backpack or what have you, so that they always have that on hand to be able to practice good hand hygiene. And then lastly, we have needed to implement some guest restrictions. So we are restricting guests in our residence halls until further notice, just because we felt like we needed to contain any sort of exposure opportunity. There's lots of things that we cannot control with regards to COVID-19, but this was one way in which we could ensure that our residence halls were going to be as safe as possible. So folks that will be in the residence halls are only permitted to be in the residence hall that they are assigned to. So they won't be able to visit a friend in a different building. They will only be able to be within their own residence hall. All right, so I want to talk a little bit, oops, too quick, about isolation and quarantine on campus. So I think that this is probably a question for lots of folks out there. So I wanted to give some time to speak to that. We have one of our residence hall buildings, Tower C, has been designated for isolation and quarantine for this academic year. So we have upwards of 90 plus spaces where students who are directed to isolate or quarantine will be moved for that period of time. So in collaboration with our University Health Center, that's how that determination will be made on who needs to isolate or quarantine. All those rooms will be single occupancy. So as I shared earlier, that the way in which the Glen Towers are set up are 2 double rooms with an adjoining bathroom in between. We'll actually only be utilizing 1/2 of that suite. So if a student is isolating or quarantining within Tower C, they will be the only person utilizing that bathroom. There won't be someone on the other side of the bathroom in the other room. We're coordinating with our dining services so that meals will be delivered directly to the door via contactless delivery. So students will fill out a form indicating their menu choices for that day, and then we will have staff who will take those meals directly to the door and drop them outside. The students who are required to isolate or quarantine are expected to stay in their room. They are not permitted or expected to leave their room for any reason. So we're working to put measures in place so that they don't need to leave. And then university support around those students who are isolating and quarantining. The University Health Center will be doing daily outreach to those students to monitor symptoms, to ensure that they have anti-fever medication, or just to check in with them and see how they're doing, keep tabs on their progress, and make arrangements if additional care is needed. And as Melinda shared during her portion when she was talking about staffing on campus, residence life staff are always available for students. So we have residential life coordinators who are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so in the event that a student really needs support, we are able to leverage our residence life staff in order to support those folks and get them whatever it is that they might need at that point in time. So I want to turn things over. I know that we've had a lot of questions already coming through the chat, and some questions that had been shared previously. So I want to give some time for those because I feel like that's where, you want to make sure that you feel good about the experience that you're sending your students to. Make sure that we've addressed any questions or concerns that haven't been addressed to this point. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and then turn it over to the Q&A portion.
Thank you so much. And I see many of you have already found the Q&A function. So if you look for the button that has 2 speech bubbles, that will allow you to type in some questions. We also had plenty of folks submit questions in advance, so we're going to make sure that we get through some of those, and we'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A as well. So to get started, something to clarify for the information that you were that you have already given and for these questions. How does this information relate to students who are living in Pecos-Tubman? Does this apply? Is it the same, or should they be contacting other resources to have their questions answered?
So for everything that we've covered today, it does include Pecos and Tubman. University housing encompasses 15 buildings, and then 18 if you include Pecos, Tubman, and Millennium, which are managed by Capstone on-campus management. But they are in a dual partnership with us. So they manage the operations, the assignments, the billing for students, and maintenance, but we manage the residence life staff. So you still have resident assistants that are Towson University employees. You still have a residence life coordinator in the building. So we work in conjunction very closely together. Their move-in processes are our move-in processes. The only thing that you would want to talk with them specifically about is billing and cancellations, because that's not something that we'd be able to reference for you today.
Great, thank you. So jumping all the way back to move-in. So as we reduce density, what are the restrictions on having parents and family members help their student move in? Do they have the whole 2 hours to just move their items, or do they need to be in and out in 2 hours?
So you will be able to have 2 helpers with you to move in, with the hope being that you are able to be in and out in 2 hours. And just a reminder that those 2 hours do not start until after you've received your key, just in case there is a line waiting to pick those up. It's not from your start time of when you signed up for move-in. And we will be tracking that as staff members, but our hope is that everyone's able to get in and out, particularly so that the students that are coming in at later times will have access to elevator use, cart usage, because students will be able to check out move-in carts to assist them with moving in their belongings. We just will not have any staff members to assist you with moving in.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm seeing a lot of questions about move-in, about dining halls during move-in. So I do want to confirm that there will be dining options open starting August 13th. So your students will have a place where they can get food, but we'll go into some details a little bit later. So a lot of family members have questions about fees and billing for the semester in the event that scenarios change on campus. So if TU were to go fully online, would housing rates be prorated? Would they receive a refund?
So we will be working closely with administration and finance in the event that that happens. It's my understanding that that would be the case, but we'll be reassessing like exactly what that refund would look like, and that would be applied to on-campus housing that is managed by Housing Residence Life. We wouldn't be making any determinations for capstone properties.
Great, thank you. And then if family members need to still opt out of housing, can they do that? And is there a deadline for that?
You can still submit a housing contract cancellation, and we will be providing refunds for housing deposits and removal of housing charges as long as you cancel before move-in. So move-in does start August 13th, but we will be processing all of those for students. Once move-in occurs, you'll be operated under our regular refund process, which is an 80% refund if you cancel within the first 8 days, and then a 60% refund if you cancel within the first 22, I believe. And then anytime after that, it would be a 0% refund unless something else changes across campus, as Kelly had already talked about.
Great, thank you. And then the other question about housing situation changing is about eligibility for spring 2021. So if a student were to elect not to live on campus, or to not enroll at Towson for the fall 2020 semester, what does their housing eligibility or the likelihood that they would get housing look like for spring 2021?
So at this time, it'll depend upon what on-campus housing we have available. If we are able to expand our capacity, there's a much greater likelihood that we would have housing available for any student that wanted to return to on-campus housing in the spring. If we're not able to expand on-campus housing ability, we still will have spaces available, I'm sure, in the spring, and our application process will open in November, and that will be open to anyone that had previously canceled with us, which is somewhat different than what we have done previously, but we know that this year we're canceling for a very specific reason. So students would be eligible to return to on-campus housing after having submitted a cancellation.
Great, thank you. So a few more questions were submitted about responding to coronavirus precautions. So are students required to either be tested or quarantined prior to moving into the residence hall? Does that change, say, if a roommate were to be coming from a high impact area?
So I would advise for anyone to be tested, and the closer that you can do your testing before the start of the semester, the better. So the ideal window to be tested would be 10 days prior to your move-in day. So I would just advise for families to put that into play. With regards to isolation and quarantine, that would be dependent on what somebody's risk factor would be, and of course would be a conversation that we would engage with our University Health Center and the Baltimore County Health Department on. So I don't have a firm answer for you on whether or not somebody would be required to quarantine if they're coming from a hotspot area. I know that for international students, we are in a different situation, and we likely will have those students quarantining for a period of time before they move to their regular room. But a lot of this stuff is still very much in motion at this point in time. So that's my advice.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing a couple follow-up questions about isolating. So if a student were to have symptoms or test positive and needed to quarantine, could they elect to go home for that period as opposed to staying in Tower C?
Kelly froze, so I'm going to do that because it looked like she was about to unmute. At this time, yes, students would be able to, if they wanted to isolate or quarantine, to go home to complete that. One of the things to note, though, is let's say at noon one day, they talked with the health center, and the health center determined that they needed to isolate or quarantine, and then their parent couldn't come and pick them up until the next day. They would have to transition to Tower C until their parent would be able to come and pick them up. But they would be able to go home to isolate or quarantine, and then they would just need to be cleared by the health center before returning to on-campus housing.
Great, thank you. And then, Katie, do you know if someone were to test positive, say, on the floor of a residence hall, if that would then mean that it was necessary for the folks on that hall to all quarantine? So the other way that this has been phrased is Tower C for people who have only tested positive or for people who have been exposed as well?
So Tower C is for isolating and quarantine, which is people who have tested positive and also people that have had a high contact with someone that was positive. So it will depend upon what their contact is. And that's something that will be determined by the health center through contact tracing. Will help determine who, if there was an outbreak on a floor or in a classroom, who out of all of those students would actually need to isolate or quarantine, because it won't necessarily be all of them if there was minimal to no contact.
Thank you. So we'll continue to answer these questions in the chat, but I do want to make sure that we get some of these pre-submitted questions as well. So we've got some of our typical housing questions, not COVID related. For laundry, where are laundry facilities located, and is it coin operated, or can they use their TU1 card?
So laundry depends upon the building. There is a laundry room in every single building, some on the second floor, some on the first floor, some on the lower level. And you will be able to use coins or your one card to pay for your laundry services.
Excellent. How about printing services? Are there printing services in the residence halls?
There are not printing services inside of every single residence hall. However, there are printing services near each residential area. So there is one over in West Village Commons, as well as near Towson Run on the west side of campus. And then there's printing services in some of the academic buildings and library on the east side of campus.
Excellent. And then as students are thinking about packing, are students responsible for bringing their own cleaning supplies, shower curtain, or toilet paper?
Due to the decreased density and the type of bathrooms that students will be in, the overwhelming majority of students will be required to bring their own cleaning supplies and toilet paper. We do provide shower curtains. However, they are just plastic liners. So if you wanted something prettier, you can bring that for yourself. The only places where we will have staff that are cleaning the bathrooms and providing toilet paper are inside of our bathrooms that aren't contained within a room. So in Residence Tower and a few of the spaces inside of Newell. But if it's a suite where the only way to get into the bathroom is from inside of one of the student spaces, or in Barton and Douglas, where it's a private bedroom with a private bathroom inside of it, the student will be responsible for cleaning and providing their own toilet paper.
Thank you. And then how about a fridge and microwave?
We do provide micro fridges in every room, and we do not allow students to bring their own. If you have a need for a personal one for medical reasons, you can work with the Accessibility and Disability Services Office, and then they will let us know and we'll have it in the room before the student arrives.
Great, thank you. So for students who plan to live on campus for the entire academic year, fall and spring, will they remain in the same room, and do they need to move out completely in between semesters?
So in a typical year, they remain in the same room and they do not need to move out in between semesters. We know that this year is not a typical year, so I cannot give you a final answer today. The reason being is if we are able to increase occupancy, that could potentially change where students are assigned for the upcoming year, where they were previously in a single, now they're going to have a double for the spring semester. So we are going to make that determination as soon as we have some more clarification on what the spring semester is going to look like, and we'll communicate that as quickly as possible. One of the reasons why we are encouraging students to pack lightly and not overload their space with their belongings.
Yes, definitely good advice. Are students separated in the residence hall by class year? So will all the freshmen be in one place?
They are not separated by class year. They are intermingled. However, as I had mentioned earlier during my presentation, is that we saved the majority of the spaces in our residence halls for our first year students just due to space limitations. So our residence halls will skew more first year students than in regular years, but there will still be some sophomores and then our staff members that are juniors and seniors in the building as well.
Great. Once students are given their room assignments, will they have access to the dimensions of their room and the furniture involved?
So you can find detailed information on all of the furniture that's provided in each room on our website. We have detailed descriptions on each building. It's not going to give you the exact dimensions, but it'll tell you the type of dresser or wardrobe or closet that is provided inside of the space. And we do not have specific dimensions of every single room because each room is, of course, a little bit unique. So we don't have specific dimensions for each of them.
Understandable. If a student were to need to take an online class and their room was not available, so if the roommates both had online class at the same time, would there be space in the residence hall for someone to go complete their coursework?
So we do have common spaces that will be open for students. Students will be expected to adhere to the space limitations in that space. So as I mentioned earlier, all the common spaces will be restricted by how many people can share that space at any given time. So those spaces are definitely available for students to use. They'll be expected to wear a mask during that period of time. And I also encourage, as many of us have worked from home over this last 4 months, utilizing headphones and whatnot to be able to use shared space whenever it's appropriate.
Thank you. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about clarity on the 2 helpers for move-in rule and the 2 hours for move-in rule. So could someone reiterate what those policies and expectations are?
Yes, so students will be allowed to have 2 additional helpers to them in addition to themselves for move-in, whether that's a parent, a sibling, a friend. They're able to bring 2 helpers with them to help them load up their belongings, bring it into their space. And then our hope is that students are able to complete the move-in process, be done unloading their cars, have everything up in their space within that 2-hour window.
Thank you. And to answer some of these questions, yes, we really do need you to adhere to having only 2 people and being as efficient as you possibly can. I know that you want to say goodbye to your student. It's a meaningful experience to you, but it is for the safety of all of our students, including yours, that you not bring more than 2 helpers and that you do try to make that process as efficient as possible. But also to clarify, yes, once your student is moved in, they can stay there. They just aren't required to. They could go home with you and then come back to complete their welcome to TU responsibilities. So with that, I'm hoping that maybe our students can speak a little bit to what welcome to TU is like. I know you might not have some particulars about this year's, but there were a lot of questions submitted about, will my student have the chance to meet other people or interact with other students during welcome to TU?
So I know that Welcome to TU is working on a number of activities and events that are going to be geared at facilitating engagement, and so more details to come from those as they're being coordinated by lots of different offices across our division right now, and the university actually as a whole. But what I can talk about is with residence life, and so we have some things that we are working on that will be following all of the guidance and rules about physical distancing and outside events where we will be working on some things and doing some activities together. And that's where those RAs are really going to come into play because they'll be coordinating a lot of those activities and events and then helping to provide exploration of some of those other things and explain like, how are we going to get there and where is this going to be? Because we know that a lot of what how that goes in the past, like the RAs are an important part of that experience, such as the orientation leaders, like they all they're committed to making sure that the transition is smooth. And so while there will be a lot of virtual opportunities, there will be a number of safe, planned things so that there is an opportunity to connect with people in much smaller crowds than one would have typically experienced. But I'm personally a fan of small crowds. So yeah, there will be opportunities for that. So stay tuned as more information is developed and pulled together for those.
Thanks, Melinda. Either the OLs, what was your experience like getting to meet new people?
Well, I'll say when we actually sort of facilitated residents to welcome to TU last last fall semester, it was just generally a sort of convivial experience. We had our students take pictures and just, I guess, sort of get to know each other in a particular space. That's as far as I remember in terms of what Welcome to TU offered for those students, because I didn't necessarily participate in it myself, so I didn't get, the full experience of it, but I know it was a fun, and social type of environment.
Thanks. We hope it will stay that way, even with some of the restrictions that we have. A lot of the questions that were submitted in advance, and I'm seeing in the Q&A, are about dining and meal plans. So I've been working with the folks in dining to make sure that we have some answers for you about that today. So I'm going to try to knock off some of these questions, and then we'll jump right back into our residence halls and what's going on there. So in the dining halls, they are making some changes, both due to responding to COVID-19 and because we have some construction and improvements going on in some of our residence halls. So yes, or some of our dining halls. So yes, some of those locations will not be open for the fall 2020 semester. I'm going to put in the chat a document that outlines which dining hall facilities will be open for fall 2020. I will say that there's plenty to choose from. Much of it is staying open, and your students will certainly have options. Some of the ways that the dining halls are changing is that our buffet style, all you care to eat dining halls will have several ways that you can interact with them. They are remaining open. Two of our all you care to eat dining halls are remaining open, where you would be able to use a meal and eat like you would normally, with keeping in mind extra cleaning, decreased density, so the seating will be more limited. So that certainly is still an option. Your student could use the dining hall in that way. They also have the option of using their meal to do what is called grab and go. And grab and go can look two different ways. They can either grab a refrigerated packaged meal from the front of the dining hall, so they would not have to really enter the dining facility in any length if they would like to really minimize the time that they're spending there. They could also do grab and go by swiping in and taking a to-go container and cup and lid that they would then be able to go in the dining hall, be served any of the options that were being served that day, and then taking that out of the dining hall. So those are your students' options as they need to have to use their meal plan that they could use in those all you care to eat facilities, with many of our other a la carte facilities operating like they normally would, with students able to go grab food, and then with seating still being that decreased density. The hours of these facilities are still being finalized. So that will be also on the dining website as soon as they are ready to go. So I think that covers a lot of what was asked about dining. So at this time, I'm gonna turn it over to Kristen to start going through some of these questions that were submitted through the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So one of the very first questions that we got was about joining a learning community. Melinda, I think you mentioned that earlier in your discussion. Can anyone touch on that, how to join a learning community?
So joining a learning community was part of our application process. So at this point, it has already been determined who will be in a learning community because you were able to indicate interest as part of your application, and then you went through a selection process. I believe all of those students have been notified that they are in a learning community, just not necessarily which one yet. They will be notified about that by Friday.
Awesome, thank you. When does sign up for move-in begin?
So the instructions will be going out with our assignment email on Friday. The thing to know though is that it will be broken up by building, just because it will overload the system if all 3,000 students try and go in there at the exact same time. So we'll go by building. That way nobody in a building has a leg up over another student if we went by like credit hour or something like that. And then those specific instructions on when each building can go in will also be a part of that email and up on our website.
Thank you. So is there someone specific that family members can contact or students can contact with questions about their rooming assignment when they receive them?
The best place to go to is to email us at housing@towson.edu. Send us a chat. We have somebody working the chat feature on our website Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or we do have our phone lines open now. So you can also call the office Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and someone can assist you. We have a great admin staff team as well as myself that help assist any of those parents and families that are calling us with issues.
Thank you. So if students live on campus, are they allowed to go around Towson, leave the immediate campus, and just go around Towson?
Absolutely. So once students arrive, they will be able to go and explore both the campus community and the Towson community. We encourage folks to be safe as you go about and do that. So not gathering in large crowds, wearing your mask, all of that kind of stuff, practicing your hand washing, all the things that you do in your life right now.
Perfect. So will students be allowed to go into other students' dorm buildings?
No, so that was part of the guest restrictions that I spoke about earlier. So we're restricting guests at this point in time in the residence halls. So students will not be able to access residence halls that are not their own.
I'm seeing a question. Will students be put into off-campus apartments through Towson University?
So yes, we did partner with Aspen Heights, which is a new off-campus housing partner that's right next to campus. If you're familiar with campus, it's 101 York Road, right next to the Starbucks, and 10 West is directly behind it, which is one of our residence halls. And we have partnered with them to have additional spaces, so we had enough space for all of our students on campus. We are looking to primarily place our continuing students and transfer students and are not looking to place any of our incoming first-year students in that building. If they are there, it is still a contract with University Housing. It's still going under University Housing policies. You still pay your bill to the bursar's office. It's just a master lease that we have done with that apartment complex to ensure that we had additional space for everyone that needed housing.
And in a similar light, I'm seeing a question about if a student lives in Aspen Heights, but not in the floors that Towson University has, would they still be able to do the activities and kind of interact with people on the floors that live specifically within Towson's lease? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So yes, students will be able to engage with the other students who live in Aspen Heights, regardless of whether they have a contract directly with Aspen or if they have a contract through Housing and Residence Life.
So on move-in day, will there be signs around campus and around the Towson area to direct and indicate where people should be going to pick up their keys to go to the buildings?
Yes, there will be. We are very lucky. Parking and Transportation provides all of our signage and have been working tirelessly all summer to make sure we have great signage to be up and about during that move-in process.
Wonderful, thank you. So will dorm buildings have vacuums and cleaning supplies, or should students bring those?
Students should bring their own at this point in time. So typically we would have vacuum cleaners that could be checked out at the community center desks, but we're really limiting what we're letting be shared amongst hundreds of people. And so we're not going to have that this year. So students should bring their own cleaning supplies with them.
Okay, perfect. Is there a cable connection for television in each room?
So we actually use Xfinity on campus, which is a cloud-based system now. So it's something that you'd be able to log into and utilize an app to access cable. It does still provide you access, but it's not the coaxial cable plugging into the wall like we are used to in our homes.
Okay, thank you. So another question we have is about security and locks. So do closets have locks, and if not, can a student bring their own lock to secure their personal belongings?
So the closets do not have locks. We encourage folks to do a couple of things with regards to their roommates. Number one is to set a roommate agreement right at the start of the school year. And this is a role that your RA will help play, is to set some roommate agreements around that. And then if there are valuable items, I think I would encourage folks to not bring precious items to campus. Anything that you don't want to lose is better off probably in a more secure environment. But the closet doors don't lock, that's for sure. Some students might bring like a small little safe that they could put certain items in that they want to just keep a little more protected.
Awesome, wonderful, thank you.
Kristen, I'm keeping an eye on the time. So if you maybe want to ask one more question.
Yes, I'm seeing a lot of questions about the gym, Catherine. So maybe I was actually going to ask if you know anything about that. Will the gym be open?
My understanding is that it'll be open in accordance to any guidelines for any other facilities. So it should open during the school year like our other facilities. With that, I do want to point your attention to the chat where I've put some links to either confirm some of the information that we have put out here today, or if you have additional questions so that you can find resources and ways to get those answered. I also put a link to our TU Parents and Family Orientation website, where you can find information about our continuing sessions, as well as information about starting to receive our TU for Families newsletter and to join our Towson Family Network. So I can see on the call that Paul Tuhelman has joined us. He is a member of our Towson Family Network board, and I'm hoping that he can tell you a little bit about why he joined and why he thinks you should join the Towson Family Network.
Hello. Yeah, Towson, first of all, is the great university. When we placed our daughter there, we didn't expect so much to come out of it, actually. What our family network does, what we do for your children and for you. First of all, we offer 3 scholarships each year, and they are exclusively for students of Towson University Family Network members only. Then we help fund student-friendly programs, particularly the Towson Food Insecurity Fund, which is very important for those staff members, students, and others who actually have experience with food insecurity. They can receive 10 items each week during the semester. And how members do benefit actually from being member of Family Network. First of all, you receive experience newsletter, which is very important thing for you. We've provided with information and great tips and articles. Then you have discounts to family weekend events like Crab Feast, famous Crab Feast. Unfortunately, I think that this year we are going to pass it, but hopefully next year we're going to have it again. We always made it, almost made it a Guinness record last year, which we were proud of it. Discount cards are available from us also to select local retailers, including student store too, which is important. Finally, family weekend parent mixer. This is very interesting event you are going to experience when you will see it. Then again, 3 annual scholarships, $1,000 each scholarship. They worth repeating. So I would encourage every student, every parent of a student of Towson University to become a member of Family Network. It costs just $50 per duration of your student's time at Towson. $50 for all that time, including all these discounts. I think it's a win-win situation. I love to be the Family Network member, not only because I'm a member of the board, but because I'm getting so much information from it. It helps me and helps my child to go through the university. I don't know what else to say, but
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad that you could be with us and that I got to see you for a minute.
Absolutely. I'm glad to see you all, guys. And hopefully we'll see you in person very soon.
That's right. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you to all of our panelists, to Paul, to Kelly, Katie, Melinda, to our students, Kristen, Jacob, and Ken. As you have additional questions, please use the resources that we've put in the chat. Visit the Housing and Residence Life website, use their chat function. Their email is also posted there. And we also have, again, our family orientation website posted, towson.edu/families. I will say that as we go through these sessions, we are recording them and posting them. So if you were only able to join us for a portion of the chat and your question was answered at the beginning, feel free to visit towson.edu/families to view these recordings so that you can catch up on anything you may have missed. So once again, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you, and go Tigers. Have a great afternoon.